This is the Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show. It's a show full of informative chat and inspirational messages. The Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show on podcast. Hello, welcome on Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show. It's Brain Tumour Awareness Month. Brain tumours kill more children and adults under the age of 40 than any other cancer. Yet just 1% of the national spend on cancer research has been allocated to this devastating disease. So let's get the word out there. Let's spend the next 31 days raising the profile. The way that we're going to do that is by sharing people's stories, speaking to people from all over the world, people who have been affected by a brain tumour one way or another. Today we have David, so let's give him a call. Hello, it's Claire.
Hello, Claire.
Thank you that you're going to share your story. Shall we go back to the beginning, when you first started to have any kind of symptoms? Take us back to then.
Partner at that time said I had this seizure which I didn't know about. I was lying on the bed about at 4 o'clock in the morning. She rang 999 and then an ambulance turned up. I was then woken up and thought, what's that big ambulance man doing at the bottom of the bed? Don't need that. Let's just check, sir. So I thought this was very odd, off in an ambulance. Went to Kingston Hospital. They did an MRI scan, and that was the first time I saw the pictures and thought, that's not great. The surgeon then interviewed me and said, you've got two choices, David. That's good. He said, either we do nothing and you'll probably be dead in 2 weeks. Okay, what's the second choice? He said, oh, we'll put you on these steroids. He said, just to calm it down a bit, and then we'll get you in ASAP to St. George's and we'll take it out. So I went, I took the tablets, a bit grumpy, went into St. George's, I think it's about 10 days or 2 weeks later. Intensive care, don't remember the operation at all. No, did all the blood tests, a week before. Then went in, did the operation. NHS were brilliant, as usual, underfunded, but brilliant. Did the operation. And a few days later, the hospital, having called my partner and my parents who live abroad to say, oh, it went well. Oh. They then rang up 2 days later and said, there's been a problem. And my dad, being my dad, said, tell me straight, will he survive? And they said, there's a good chance he won't. So everybody who knows me was very upset at this point. Anyway, thank the Lord, they stopped the bleed. It was a bleed on the outside of the brain, not the inside, apparently. So they used some novel technique, which was new at St. George's, where they injected, I can't remember, it was a type of gas into your head, like nitrogen. I think it was nitrogen. Put this gas in your head and that cured it. So I think I had 2 weeks in intensive care. Then I came out, then I was on the ward. It's all a bit blurry.
Yeah. When you had to wait for 2 weeks for the operation, how were you? Because I know that steroids can make you go all kinds of crazy and not quite yourself. How did you deal with that?
It's hard to remember, Claire, but I do remember one instance, and my partner remembers a lot more. I was very grumpy. I shouted at people for riding bicycles on the pavement, and I was a cyclist, so that's not like me to be quite so aggressive and unpredictable. So I wasn't my normal, congenial, happy self at all. I was very grumpy with people.
How did you feel emotionally when you were waiting?
That's a good question, Claire. Can't fully remember, to be honest. And the hospital said that's normal. When I came round, I said, look, I keep seeing photographs of myself doing things like riding a horse in Richmond Park. And I said, I've ridden a horse in Richmond Park. There's a photograph of me on a horse. Right? They said, oh, David, don't worry, that's normal. You lose big chunks of memory. Getting around to your question, it's hard to remember. I was upset and angry, but I can't remember too much more detail because, strangely, a lot of it's blocked out, Claire.
That's probably a good thing, isn't it? That we forget stuff. But unfortunately, other people remember it, and then they remind you it.
Oh, I know.
So the surgery's been successful, but then you've had complications. So you had to have another surgery, and you're in there for a long time.
Correct,
again.
another 9 hours.
Yeah, and then what did you? What kind of side effects after the surgery? Did you have anything? Did you need physio or anything like that?
Yes, I had physio, and I had these psychological exercises with shapes, words, etc. And I do remember calling my dad up from my phone and getting very irritated. I thought they're treating me like a child. But reading my discharge notes, apparently I was very childlike. So they were probably right and I was wrong, but I got very irritated.
Yeah. How long did it take you to feel a little bit more like yourself?
Actually, the biggest effect, Claire, honestly, is tiredness, fatigue. So I'm still on levetiracetam, kept twice per day, which I religiously take because this is the anti-seizure.
Did you have seizures during the surgery or afterwards?
It happened afterwards, Claire. So I was weaning myself off the Keppra, so I didn't want to be on it. And then I had a seizure, I don't know, 3 or 4 months after the operation. I didn't know I'd had it. Partner came home, found me massive gash in my head, covered in blood. I'd had a seizure in the garden, whacked my head on the edge of a concrete slab. I didn't know anything. I was looking for tea bags when she came home. Yeah. Oh. That was one bad seizure. So I had to stop driving. And then I had a very bad seizure. Been lucky actually, a very bad seizure over between Christmas and New Year last year. So that'd be 2022. I'd sold up my house in London, moved up north, and my partner, who's Bulgarian, and I agreed, thought there was time between Christmas and New Year to zip out and see her parents in Bulgaria. So we did. They live in a farmhouse with a very DIY staircase to the top floor. I did eat, and I drank a very strong alcoholic pre-dinner drink. Because of that, I went to bed about 10 because I used to be at midnight, 1 o'clock working all the time, but not after the operation. Went to bed about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then apparently at about 1:30, I must have got up and I'd forgotten to have my Keppra tablet, and I fell down 2 flights of stairs and was found lying at the bottom of the stairs in the middle of the countryside in this very old farmhouse in the middle of Bulgaria. I had a seizure. I missed New Year 2023, which I had tickets for because I spent the whole day in bed and had to go to the local hospital. They did CT scans and said I had concussion and some cuts and bruises. I can't remember the flight home at all. Those whole 3 days are blank because local Bulgarian hospital, they filled me up intravenously with Valium. So I was high as a kite for 2 days, or 2 or 3 days. Yeah, got home from there to Liverpool Airport. Don't remember the flight. I think I was asleep the flight. And then went straight to bed and spent the next 2-3 days in bed, apart from New Year's Eve, spent at Arrow Park Hospital getting CT scans for my concussion. So now I'm taking the Keppra each day, although I've halved it for the morning. I've kept it at 500 milligrams for the night time, but it does make me very tired.
Is that why you've done that? Is because of the tiredness?
I've read that you can, with other mental exercises, wean yourself off this epilepsy anti-seizure medication. And I don't want to be taking 1,000 milligrams of it a day. So yes, I'm now taking 750 milligrams. So 500 at night, 250 in the day, and that's been fine for the past 6 months. And then I'll try half at night, half in the morning. So 250 milligrams night and morning. And I'll update the Walton Neurological Centre. So they've transferred me from St George's to the Walton Neurological Centre in Liverpool, which is a centre of excellence nationally. So that's good. But last time I told the doctor there who rang me up that I was taking, at that point, I was taking little blue ones morning and night. He said, I've looked at your scans, David. He said, and I've never seen scarring like it. You have to take more. You've got to take 500 morning and night. Yeah. So that's why I'm taking the big tablets. But I haven't told him yet. He hasn't called me up. Halve the night time. No, I've halved the morning time. And I intend to halve the night time. Then I'll tell them.
It's really interesting because during Christmas, it was like the 23rd in December. I had to go and have a scan just to go and check everything's still fine. I don't have a tumor, all that stuff. Yeah. And I always say, is there any chance I can come off my seizure medication because it makes you tired and it also makes you just not as much energy.
Yeah, you get tired as well.
Oh, yeah, massively. And then they said, we could see in your scan you still have a huge amount of scarring, so we do not advise you to come off of your seizures. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, that's what they told me, Claire, yes.
Yeah. We don't advise you. And I'm like, but does that mean I could possibly have a go? But now I don't want to risk it.
No, I know what you mean, Claire.
What do you think is like the hardest part of this process? And because actually it wasn't that long ago that you've had this. You sound amazing. Like the way you're speaking, I wouldn't know.
I did the civil service. They let me in.
Yeah. Is this the new job that you're doing?
Yes, astonishingly. Well, because of those 37 years plus at IBM, running software security partners for Europe, of which I had nearly 1,300 of them, I spoke at their events, agendas together, got them co-marketing funding from IBM worldwide, and I spotted a Vedika advert for a civil service job in DCMS, which is the Department for Culture, Media and Sports, National Business Events Manager. And I thought, I could do that. Looks like the government agreed with me.
How do you feel that you had to stop the other job that you were doing? Did you love your job? Really disappointed?
God, I was distraught. I loved it. And in fact, I'd lived in Prague for 4 years, 29 countries. I set up a brand new software channel for IBM. And then I was disappointed at the end of my 4 years in Prague that there wasn't a good role to return to. And I was headhunted by an ex-colleague to a company called IHS, Information Handling Systems. So I went back to London, worked for them for 2 years, and then IBM headhunted me back. So I went back for 5 or 6 years. And then, because I upset some American directors, and I was proven right and they were proven wrong, by the way. In fact, one of them's in jail for corruption there.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was definitely wrong. What did I do? Yes, they got rid of me very unfairly, but so I was distraught about that. And then the seizure happened just a couple of months after that. And so friends, family, colleagues, had a very good friend at work who said to me, David, he said, we had a meeting about this MAS 360 security stuff. And you said, Neil, I need you to do X, Y, Z. I'll do A, B, C. He said, the next day, he said, you haven't forgotten about doing A, B, C. He said, you just didn't know anything about it. He said, and I thought that was weird, but I didn't report it because I knew you were under so much pressure from IBM with 3 times a week calls from the Americans at 11 o'clock at night. I put it down to stress. So I also thought it was stress. However, after I'd been out of hospital for, when did I start this? About the end of that year. So the end of 2020, Claire, I looked at the facts again and I thought I was really badly treated by IBM and the way they dismissed me was completely unfair. So I arranged a call with a solicitor who'd beaten IBM 6 times before on unfair dismissal and age discrimination, which they're both. And she said, this is quite funny. She said, but David, this is like over a year after they dismissed you. There's no way we can get a case here. So I was disappointed. However, I'd independently filled in the ACAS form, and on the form it said you have to have legal representation. So the only solicitor that I knew was Jill Brown from Phillips Law & Co. in Basingstoke. So I put her down. And a couple of weeks later, I got an email back, ACAS have accepted your claim. Wow. And the next day, this lovely lady, I know her well now, she's Suffolk, Jill rang me up and said, David, what have you done? I've been contacted by ACAS as your legal representative for this case against IBM. Anyway, she took it on, and thanks to some excellent ex-colleagues, I had Tesco's home insurance, and I ticked that little box that says legal bills, which a little box you always look at and think, well, I probably don't need it, but it's only £25 extra. So I ticked it. And so far, bless them, every little helps. Tesco's have forked out £1,000 in barrister and legal fees at the moment.
Wow.
I'm lucky that I put that in place.
Yes.
The first challenge, which was very tiring, is I had to get all the medical evidence from Dr. Simi and Dr. Singh, the physios at St George's and St Mary's, had to get all the evidence for a one-day hearing with a judge
Mm.
where IBM said, this is ridiculous, this is over a year later, it's out of time. And the judge ruled in my favour and against IBM. It's the first time in UK legal history that's been achieved.
Do you think that's
Yeah,
amazing?
you can recover.
Something so huge.
I did a course called Super Brain in London at memory techniques and whatnot. In fact, I did very well, and I went back and worked for them as a, what was it, like an instructor, a host for the other students. And so I told the psychologist who runs that course about my job in civil service. He goes, "That's amazing." Said, "So you've had a tumour, you've done our course, and now you've progressed far enough in national business events." He was amazed.
Yeah, the brain can
There you
do
go.
that. It can adapt and
And
retrain yourself. And I actually think that's really encouraging, because you think at the beginning, if you've got problems with your speech, you've got problems with just other things, is that the
yeah.
brain is very clever at rebuilding itself.
Oh no, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Never give up. That's why I wanted to do this call with you, because I'm conscious. I read the figures the other day. It's the most common affliction in, what's it, under 40s in the UK, and it gets no funding. 2% of folks survive, which is a terribly low figure. It's the lowest of all the major afflictions.
This is why we want to do 1 month of people's stories and hearing about their experiences and the different
Yeah,
types of people. There's no such thing as a one type of people that get a brain tumor. It could be anybody. It can happen to anybody, and it
I
can
know.
change everything. And yet to have,
You know
especially with
what?
the children, like that there's so many children and it's just so
Oh, God,
underfunded
yes.
and so underfunded.
I know. Gets less than 1%. I'm trying to fix that. Now I'm in government. Maybe I can. It's early days, but I do intend to investigate this area.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what's going to tell you. The strange thing is, Claire, maybe you've noticed this as well. Partner doesn't like me mentioning it, but I'm quite open about it. But everybody that I've met socially and business wise since leaving the hospital, I've mentioned to them what happened. I'm yet to meet anybody who hasn't had a family member, a relation, or a friend, or somebody that they know reasonably who has not suffered from a brain tumour. It's astonishing.
Yeah. I sometimes wondered, is it because we haven't really thought about it before, but then we know that word brain tumor is triggered up in our head now, and then we hear it, not realizing it was around before, but we just weren't
Well,
listening.
I've wondered the same thing. Yeah, is it a case of, I used to know the correct terminology for this, but it was always there. And I know, but oh, look, another red car. I've got a red car.
Yes.
Oh, there's lots of them now.
Yeah.
I do wonder, is it a case of it was always there and I never noticed because I was rushing around doing IBM important things? Or, see, I have a theory. First of all, the doctors told me that because it was so big, they reckoned it had been there for over 40 years. So it must have started at about the age of 10, 11, something like that. What's the other thing about that? Sorry, I've lost it now, Claire.
Yeah, no, in terms
Been
of,
there
do you have
again.
someone in your family? Has anyone ever, you've been in some way you're blood related, that ever had a brain tumor? Because I always find I don't know anyone that had one in my
No,
family, not blood related.
no,
So, yeah.
nobody in my family either, Claire. Oh, I've remembered my point. Yeah. I discussed this with the doctor. So, did you know that when you take an international flight or any flight where you're cruising at above 20,000 feet, you get the same dose of X-rays as you get as when you have an X-ray in hospital? I was in Prague, and from Prague, I would fly to Moscow, Ukraine, or wherever twice a week. And when I wasn't in Prague for 4 years, I was looking after Europe. I was on a plane every single week, South Africa, the States. So that's not good. Secondly, I was the first person, or one of the first salespeople in IBM to get mobile phones. I had one of these big old analog phones, mobile phones. And I remember I was a bit lazy. I didn't use my headset, and I had a phone from the age of, I don't know, 20, can't remember. I was very early to get a mobile phone. Then I got a digital one. But I remember I was so busy that I'd be on the mobile phone all the way from home to the airport, turned it off when I got on the plane, got off the plane, on the phone all the way to the hotel, then left the hotel to go to a business partner or event, on the phone all the way from the hotel to the event. It was just non-stop. My ear would get hot. And that is another, I believe, contributory factor. Mobile phones against your ear. You've got to put them on speaker, as I do, or use earphones or a headset. I think flying, mobile phones, two strong contributory factors. And
I think they can make it worse, can't they?
The hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be that you've already got it. You've already got it, but it's just making it worse.
They exacerbate it.
Yeah.
And the surgeons and doctors were reluctant to put it in writing. So there you go.
If we go back, is there any advice you would give somebody?
I tell them my story and say, therefore, don't give up. I showed them my picture and say, look, I'm here. And I've managed to get another job in the government. Don't give up. That's what I do. I must say, I wish I could think more. That whole period is just a blur. Like I say, the stuff I've done, there's probably still things I'll uncover where, is that a picture of me doing that? I don't remember doing that. And I've had chats with my parents and they've said, do you remember, David, you helped me at the civil service in Sheffield when you were 18 before you went to university? I've got no memory of it whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm sure that obviously they're right, but I just don't remember.
No, I have the same thing.
Back to your point.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, I have no idea what they're talking about, and I have to really think, or someone needs to show me a photo, and so I can go
back. Me too.
Yes, but otherwise I have no idea what someone's talking about, and they're looking at me as if to say, like, how don't you remember that? I'm like, I have no idea. I do not know what you're talking about.
See, people who, it's a shame. People who are not, I don't blame them, but people who are not knowledgeable about this type of situation, you almost feel like a fraud with them because you say, oh, I've got absolutely no memory of that. You're thinking, hang on, pre this happening to me, I might not have believed the person saying that.
Yeah.
But absolutely now I know it's true. So I have a lot more empathy with people now than I ever used to have. Just don't give up.
Is there anyone that you want to thank?
I'd have to say thank you to Mariana Georgieva. Thank Dr. Singh at St George's, Dr. Simeon, because I pestered the hell out of him to get my psychological reports to win my case, to get a case to the tribunal. Yeah, I'd thank all those people, Claire, I think.
So thank you very much for sharing.
My pleasure. The only thing I'd add, actually, is I got into a real mess because when I came out of hospital, I'd always been a saver. Don't plan your investment straight after a brain tumour. I did some very dodgy investments. Not dodgy, but I wouldn't have done them in my normal state of mind. Let's put it like that.
So making big decisions. Yeah.
Like I did.
Yeah, your brain's a little bit broken.
It was. I didn't realise it at the time, but looking back now, I've recovered a bit. I'm thinking, why on earth did I put that much money in barrels of whiskey? And the second connected to that, I thought, oh, great, I'm 55, I can draw out my pension, which wasn't a wise thing to do. Even though I was honest with Universal Credit, I now owe Universal Credit £10,500 because I drew out my pension and I didn't know. I did tell them. And also, number three, a couple of the patients in the ward said, oh, don't bother, David. But if you do suffer such a serious injury, upon remission and discharge, make sure you apply for a PIP, a personal independence payment, which I managed to get. That helps financially a lot.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Claire. My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Bye. This is the Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show. It's a show full of informative chat and inspirational messages. The Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show on podcast.